Imagine if there was a state in which stuff just felt easy, in which you were just focused, naturally focused. You didn't have to force anything. And the thing is, you don't even have to imagine this state because you've already experienced it. If you're being honest with yourself, you can think back to times in your life when you were just in flow. As athletes like to call it, you were in the zone. You were focused on one task and nothing else mattered. You were doing the task because you liked doing the task and nothing else could ever distract you from the task itself. How do you recreate that experience? How do you recreate that experience of flow, of the flow state? That's exactly what we're going to talk about in this episode. We're going to talk about how to pretty much create flow state on tap, on command, and the 5 principles which evoke this state. We're going to be talking about eliminating distractions, making the state of flow autotelic, avoiding all attention residue that could come with doing multiple tasks, correcting the challenge level to make sure that we can enter flow, and then making progress in a measurable way. If you stick around, you will be so much more focused and you will be able to enter kind of a flow state pretty much when you want. And that is the gateway to self-actualization. So listen, starting with distractions, I could sit here and I could tell you pretty much anything that you kind of need to know about distractions. So you need to think about these type of distractions, that type of distractions. I could tell you like a bunch of ChatGPT shit, and I'm going to give you some examples, right? But the thing is, you know what you're going to get distracted by most of the time. If you have the humility to sit down and think through it and be like, hold on, I'm going to get distracted this work session. What am I going to get distracted by? What could possibly come up that leads me getting distracted from the main task? You will come up with answers. I don't need to tell you a bunch. Now, I am going to come up with some examples because some are very, very common in the human experience, but some you need to figure out for yourself. So if you can just sit down and think, wait, hold on, what's going to get me distracted from the thing that I'm trying to do? You're going to come up with a bunch of answers. Now, for a lot of people, this is going to be your phone, or even your PC to some extent. So on these digital tools that we use, we're going to get notifications. We're going to get people trying to contact us. We're going to get people fighting for our attention. We're going to get emails. We're going to get all sorts of tries from big companies, from friends, from all sorts of outside influences trying to snatch our attention away. Now, I'm not saying you can't give your attention to other people. It's probably paramount to your survival and to your socialization to give your attention to some people sometimes, but not while you're working. Your phone does not belong on your desk while you're working. Your phone does not belong in your pocket while you're trying to conduct a meeting. So the best thing to do is to get your phone away from you as far as possible. Now, if you need to have your phone on your desk, or if you need to have your phone in your hand because you're working on it, disable notifications. Turn do not disturb on. And for some people, even on your PC, you get these notifications all of the time. I am absolutely mesmerized by this concept that people even have notifications on their PC. You don't have that much self-respect to actually guard your attention in the way where you limit notifications. But the fact that some fucking notification tab pops up in the bottom right while you're trying to work is just abysmal. Like, it's so bad. And the problem with that is that all of these notifications actually leave you distracted for a much longer time. Now, we're going to talk about this a bit later, but the concept of attention residue basically says that it doesn't just go like this, like, you're 100% focused, or if this is a graph and this is like 100% focus, you're not 100% focused, and then it goes down, and then you have to message someone, you get a notification, right? And then you go right back up and you're back in work mode. This is nowhere near the reality of the thing. So the reality is, you're 100% focused, sure, you go down, something distracts you, and then you have to work your way back up to 100% focus, because you don't just fucking snap back into it. And you know I'm right here, by the way. You know every single time you get a text, the thought still lingers in your mind. Oh, should I text her back now? Or should I wait a bit? Should I do the thing someone else told me to do? Oh, no, I should have said that. Oh, yeah, I should text this person also now that I'm in the messaging app. You get all these kind of thoughts because some new sort of outside stimulus entered your mind. And after being infiltrated by something, you will have to work your way back up. And the thing is, sometimes we don't even do this. Sometimes we're like, oh shit, yeah, I should text that other person. And then we start working our way back up, but we go back down, and then we're back down, and now we have to work our way back up from here. So it's not like 30 seconds distraction. It's more like 15 minutes, or fucking 30 minutes. And it actually takes so much time for us to get back to 100% focus once we get distracted. So the best thing is to eliminate distractions. Absolutely. Eliminate distractions as well as you can. The best thing you can do is to sit down and think through, okay, what's going to get me distracted this work session? But if you can just eliminate most of the main stuff, like, okay, I'm going to open my phone. Am I going to see any apps which might lead to some thoughts arising, some urges arising inside of me, which make me want to do something else than what I'm supposed to be doing. If I open my phone, maybe it's to look at my emails for work, maybe it's to open, an app which I work on. Am I going to see Instagram in the way while I'm trying to open that app? Is Instagram going to distract me? Because if we have the humility to admit this, you're going to be so much further ahead than other people. If you can go on your PC and you can have the humility to admit that, yeah, there are some like old games on my desktop that I might get like distracted by. If I see League of Legends on my desktop, I might open it, I might fuck around and go solo queue game. Like, if you can actually have the humility to admit this, you're going to be so much better off. And there's a second kind of group of distractions is physical distractions. So if some people in your environment are like inevitably going to distract you, are going to like snatch your attention, are going to knock on your door whatsoever pretty much, you're going to be cooked. You're going to be distracted, and the same thing applies. You're going to still be thinking about that interaction. Should you do the thing that they ask? Should you not do the thing? Should you talk to them? Should you talk to your other roommate now that you're distracted anyway? Those kind of things will arise in your side of your brain. So how can you kind of get around it? Well, one thing you can do, which is actually not elimination, it's addition, it's getting a cup of water before you start. I know it might sound weird, me saying that right after I'm talking about people, but for example, while you're sitting down, it's very reasonable that you get dehydrated. So that's something that might lead you to get up and actually get distracted and go to a different room while you're working. How about you just get it in advance so you don't get distracted while you're working? Same with people. How about you tell your roommates, tell your flatmates, tell your co-workers, hey, I'm going to be focused on this task for the upcoming 2 hours. Please don't distract me. If there's anything, tell me now. Take a piss now so you don't have to go to the toilet later. It's all of these kind of things. You can understand the logic I'm going by here. I'm just thinking, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to work. What's going to get me distracted? That's really the thesis of the matter. How do you eliminate all of the distractions in your current work environment? And this is why most modern work environments are so cancerous, by the way. It's because you sit in a space with open offices and every single person hears the noise of every single other person. And if you need something from your coworker, you just go around to their booth and you just hit them up and you just chat shit to them, and it's so distracting, and it's absolutely not conducive to flow state. So if you actually want to enter a state of flow, it's all about minimizing distractions and narrowing focus. You can picture focus like this huge kind of layer that can be very, very vast, and it can be very thinly spread, or you can actually focus on just this one section of the layer, but very, very deeply, if that makes any sense. Like, this is your level of focus, I guess, if you were to picture this like a wormhole or some kind of loop. But it's very, very deep, and you're only focused on this very little section here. That is what flow state is about. It's not about spreading your focus as thin as possible and looking at this and looking at that. It's about looking at one thing, but looking at it very deeply and being absolutely in the task, in the flow, in the zone, as athletes like to call it. Now, the next thing is being interested in the task, because if you're not interested in doing the task, you're not going to be that good. You're not going to enter a state of flow. If someone else is telling you, do this, and you really, really don't feel like it, obviously you're not going to try as hard. Obviously you're not going to be 100% delved into the task. And that only makes sense. I've had these examples happen to me time and time again, and you've probably experienced this as well, where it's like a sunny day, you get home from school, you're feeling really nice, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to help out around the house. And what ends up happening is your mum tells you, yeah, do the dishwasher once you get home. And you're like, well, fuck off, I don't want to do the dishwasher anymore. Now, of course, you don't say that to your mother, but that's how you feel deep inside. And you're like, yeah, I wanted to do the dishwasher, but now you told me to do it, I'm not going to do it anymore. Fuck you. So it's this. It's exactly this. It's a self-determination theory, which explained this very, very well to me. This theory kind of explains the three main factors in making motivation more intrinsic than extrinsic. These words, intrinsic, kind of means intrinsic. This kind of means coming from within. And if you were to picture this on a spectrum with the other type of motivation, which is extrinsic, it's kind of like this motivation is coming from within. You do it because you just want to do it. It's an autotelic experience. That kind of means you do the experience for the thing itself. You don't expect anything from it. You do the thing because you want to do it. You're just so fun about doing the thing. That's literally it. And this is kind of the opposite. You do the thing because of something you're going to get because of doing the thing. This is, for example, working a job you don't like, but it gives you money so you can live off the money. You're doing something to impress others, for validation, for any sort of reason which isn't actually the activity itself, but the thing which you will get after doing the activity. Well, intrinsic is just doing the activity because you love doing the activity. And self-determination theory basically says there are three major components in actually making something more intrinsic rather than extrinsic. And those are autonomy, competence, and relatedness. These three things are what make an activity intrinsic. If you can max all of these out, you will have no problem with entering a flow state. So the first thing is autonomy. It's actually wanting to do the thing. This is the main example that I drilled in with the dishwasher example. If your autonomy is stripped away and you're no longer choosing to do the thing, it's being told to you, you're going to have trouble doing it. Now, this is also kind of a spectrum. You can have somewhat autonomous roles. You can have somewhat not autonomous roles. For example, if you're told where to be at what time, do what specific thing exactly, that's not too autonomous. But maybe your boss gives you a bit of creativity. They're like, yeah, you need to do this thing, but you're welcome to experiment. You're welcome to do whatever you want in order to get this result. Now, they might give you a bit more autonomy and be like, yeah, you can do kind of whatever you want, whenever you want, realistically, if you get this result. And now that's kind of cool. And now maybe you're an entrepreneur with the next step and you're like, yeah, you do whatever you want because you know the result you're getting, and you're getting that result because you want to get it, and you're doing it however you want to, whenever you want to, and you're just giving yourself layers and layers of autonomy. Now, you don't have to be 100% autonomous. You don't have to give yourself absolute 1000%, you do whatever you want, whenever you want kind of autonomy, but the more the better. Basically, that's all I want to say. The more, the better. Now, in some seasons of life, you're going to lean more towards this extrinsic. You're not going to be able to max all of these things out, and that's totally fine as well. I'm not here to tell you, you need to live in some fucking fantasy world and be 100% aligned all of the time. That's just not human nature. Human nature has some parts in it where we're just going to have to work for money. We're just going to have to, I don't know, I would say we have to work for validation, but maybe that's not entirely true. But point being, you're going to have to work for money at some point. You're going to have to do some things you don't like at some point. But for the most part, if you can max autonomy and all of the other things, that's amazing. And you should aim to do that. The second thing is competence. This is also something which you should realistically start at something which you're not competent at, because that is the best way to be competent. If you're starting something brand new, you're not going to be too skilled at it. You're not going to be too good. However, if you do it more and more and more, you're inevitably going to get better. So again, you have to kind of start at a point which isn't too ideal, but you're going to work your way up into actually being passionate about the thing, because now you like it, now you're good at it. Now, just having one of these things, just being autonomous, doesn't mean you're going to like it. Just being good at the thing doesn't mean you're going to like it. For example, I went to university just because I was good at computers, and I ended up hating it, and I ended up dropping out of computer science about 2 months and a few days in. I literally dropped out of university because I fucking hated it. And the final thing is relatedness. How well do you feel related to the people around you? How well do you feel like you have a community together? Do you care about them? Are they actually good? Are they hindering you in doing your work? It all matters so much, because if you feel accepted by the people who are around you, if you like them, you're going to be much better off. Now, again, if you just have this one ticked and the other two aren't really ticked, you're still not going to like the thing that much, because you're surrounded by a bunch of good people. You don't really like your work. You don't feel like it's meaningful. You're not good at it. It's kind of going to suck. You get me? So the best case is if you max all three of these things. If you actually feel like you're choosing to do the thing because you like it, you have autonomy, you do it however you want, whenever you want, you choose something that you're actually good at, and you feel like you're flourishing in doing so. And the third thing is you feel like you're actually competent, and not competent, but related. You actually feel like people around you like you also like them, you care for them, etc., etc. So if you max all of these things out, you will inevitably move more to the right of this spectrum. And if you actually achieve the utmost intrinsic motivation, you will enter a state of flow. There is no way around it. Now, the third thing we're going to talk about is very akin to the first point about distractions, but it's something that people don't even notice that it's a distraction. So I thought it really, really needed its own place. For this reason, I need to draw this graph up of attention residue again. It's not like this. It's like this mainly. You need to work your way back up. And the reason this is so important in this example is because we're going to be talking about multitasking. We're going to be talking about task switching. So a lot of people have this misconception that task switching exists when the prefrontal cortex of our brains, the part that is responsible for decision making, can hold very, very little information at a time. We have literally about maybe 30-40 seconds of memory in there. So once you think of a thing, and maybe it's like, we've all had this experience where we're scrolling and we're doing some mindless activity and we have a thought, oh yeah, I should do that. And you scroll and you're like, wait, fuck, what did I do? Or maybe you go into a room to do something, and by the time you enter the room, you've already fucking forgotten, because that is how your mind works. It can pretty much only hold one thing in there, and only that thing can be held in for so long. Right? So if you're constantly switching between tasks, not only is your attention residue going to be at the fucking bottom, you're not even going to be kind of focused on the task, but you're also not going to be good at doing either task, because you're constantly switching and you're forgetting what the fuck you need to do about like each one. Doesn't make any sense, right? So if you have anything to do, do it. If you have multiple things to do them once at a time. There's this huge misconception also in like the, I don't know, online work kind of space, that the more monitors you have, the better. This is entirely the inverse of it. The reality is there's this kind of joke going on in the indie hacker programmer space that the more monitors you have, the less productive you are. And this is unequivocally true. This is the true nature of things, because when I had 2 monitors, I kid you not, every single time I had one task, which usually I had one task. I mean, usually your brain requires you to do one thing. I would be like, yeah, I have the second monitor. What should I load up? Should I load up Discord? Should I load up Spotify? And it ended up distracting me. And even when I had 2 tasks, it would be better off just alt-tabbing. It would be better off just switching between the tabs, because then I'm actually focused on one thing. Right now, looking between the fucking monitors and oh shit, and then I finish the task and then I do something else, and it constantly keeps you distracted, excuse me. So it doesn't make any sense, absolutely, to have multiple tasks, because all you're going to be left doing is switching between the tasks and going back down to 0 attention, and going back down to 0 attention, and going back down to 0 attention. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be stuck in this space of being below like 50% attention, and flow state only exists when you're at the top. You're never going to be in flow state when you're constantly switching tasks, because so much attention residue is going to be accumulated. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Task switching, multitasking, it doesn't exist. Doesn't matter whether you're male or female, just don't do this shit, okay? If you have one task, stick to it, do it on one monitor, do it in one notepad, just fucking get the thing done. And if you finished it, you can move on to the next one. Now the next one is probably what you... Now the next task is what we drew on the thumbnail, and you could see in the opening section of this video. It's pretty much this graph about how the flow state exists within kind of respect to our challenge level. So this middle part is called the flow channel in this graph. This top part is called anxiety. And this bottom part is called boredom. What does this mean? Don't worry. This is your skill level, and this is the challenge level of the thing you're trying to do. So this basically means if your skills exceed the challenge level, so maybe your skills are like a 6 out of 10 and your challenge is a 2 out of 10, you're going to be bored. You're going to be somewhere in this section. However, if it's the inverse way, if it's the opposite way, if you're 6 on the challenge and you're only 2 in the skills, you're going to be here or anywhere here, you're going to be anxious. The thing is going to be too hard for you. And if you're in the middle, that is going to be the flow channel. That is where you want to be. Because if your skills don't really exceed the challenge level or the other way around, you're going to be good. You're going to be okay. You're going to be fine. Because the thing is, if you're constantly overwhelmed, if you feel like the thing isn't good for you, you're not too competent, it kind of goes back a bit to the self-determination theory, you're always going to be anxious. And if it's the other way around, you're always going to be bored, because you're not really going to be on your edge. You know, people say stay on your edge, because that is how you grow. That is how you're in flow. If the thing is challenging for you, if it's interesting, our brain is going to latch onto it. Our brain is going to want to solve it. Our brain is a supercomputer. We really, really like solving problems that get us forward in life and give us this sense of being important. So if we have this problem of constantly being either overwhelmed or underwhelmed, we're never going to be in flow. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi says it in the book Flow. If you actually achieve this, then only and only then you will achieve the optimal human experience, which is flow. So don't throw yourself into this mindset of just doing the bare minimum is enough, and you know you're doing the thing, so it must be good. 10,000 hours of learning, you know, we've all been sold this misconception. It's absolutely untrue. And if you're interested about learning a new skill, maybe you should watch my video on learning. I should be throwing it up on like a card right now onto the screen. And the other thing is also true. We've also been sold the idea that, you know, throw yourself into the deep end and make it hard for yourself in the beginning, and that's going to improve your skills drastically. And although that kind of sounds nice, it's not true. Like if you're on your edge, if the thing is like slightly harder than what you're capable of, maybe that's going to be good, but that's still in the flow channel. If it's actually like significantly harder than what you're capable of, you're just going to drown. And that's the reality of it. The final thing we're going to talk about is making progress. And progress needs to be in a few specific ways to be absolutely conducive to flow. So what flow basically requires is for us to be specific. You know, we talked about how you have attention and you have focus, and it can be either be very narrow, it can be very shallow, but very like widely spread, or it can be very, very deep and very focused. But in order to be actually focused, we need to know what we're focusing on. What is the goal? And it's very, very important to set just one goal. So first of all, your goal needs to be measured very discreetly. It needs to be very, very precise, whatever your goal is. You're going to be like, okay, for this period, maybe it's just one work block, but it's even better if you can like narrow it down. Okay, in these few months, I'm going to be focused on this one project, and you're going to make it very, very specific. Maybe it's getting my YouTube channel to more subscribers. It's getting my business to more recurring revenue. It's getting my grades up to this GPA. It's getting something to something very specific. So it needs to be very specific, it needs to be one goal, and it needs to be very measurable. Now, if you can add something to this, which is like a time frame, you can be like, okay, we're going to do this for the next 2 months or 3 months, even better. But as long as the goal is entirely specific and entirely measurable, your brain is going to latch onto it. Just like in the previous example, if your brain's going to be like, oh, holy shit, this is within our challenge level, it's not too boring and it's not too anxiety inducing, and we actually know what to do. All of the clarity, lack of clarity is being removed. We're actually adding clarity to the equation. We know what the fuck we need to do. It's going to be like, hold on, why don't we do this? Why don't we optimize for it? Maybe I'm going to be able to do this. Maybe I'm going to be able to do that. When you're not constantly overwhelmed, your default mode network of your brain, when you're just getting these autopilot kind of random thoughts, are going to be about this thing, because now your brain is optimizing for it. If you just have this vague idea, maybe I want to do this, and maybe if I have a bit of time, I'll do that. You're not really going to be getting thoughts about this, but you might have noticed, when you have this big challenge in your life, you have this big kind of maybe a conversation you need to have, maybe like a project you're working on, and it's very specific and you know what you need to do, your brain will start to come up with like random solutions for the problem. You're going to start getting shower thoughts. When you're in the shower, maybe right before bed, when you're trying to fall asleep, when your brain isn't really constantly caught up with a bunch of other things, external kind of distractions, your brain's going to be activating this default mode network, and you're going to be like, hold on, how can I get some kind of solution for this? Maybe we do that, maybe we do this, and most of this thinking isn't even conscious. This is why it appears like these thoughts are appearing randomly in our brain, because now we have a very specific, very few amounts, hopefully one or maybe just 2 goals, and all of those goals are very measurable within a very specific metric and a time frame. We need to maximize our recurring revenue in the next 2 months in this sort of business. We need to get our GPA up on this kind of subject in the next 3 months before like a final season, or I don't know. This is what is very, very conducive to flow. If you actually manage to make sure you track progress in a way which is actually trackable and in a way which is actually very, very simple, and your brain can latch onto it, you're going to be in flow in no time.